Welcome to the Football Critters Podcast. I'm your host, the Otter, and with me is my co-host,
the Bear.
And once again, we are talking about the offensive tackles in this amazing tackle draft class.
Oh,
The
yeah.
reason I say once again is because this is our second recording of it after hitting the shit show. But I think I did that on purpose because I love the tackles in this class so much. I just really wanted to talk about it again with you in an official format.
If you did that on purpose, I'm going to kill you. I'm just so everybody's aware. If you don't see him again, it's because he actually did that.
Yeah, he can just make an AI voice of me now to cover the tracks. So
I'll just find somebody else.
Yeah, probably.
You're easily replaceable. Kidding.
But I mean, how amazing is this draft class, though?
I love this tackle class. I mean, it's just wow. I mean, I'm used to seeing about 3 guys every year that I look at and I'm like, wow, you guys are like top tier talent. And honestly, man, I mean, I think probably the top 8 in this class are that for me. I really want to get one of these guys.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the time to get a tackle because usually to get a guy who might be 5th on our list, the talent at 5, I would say this year for me in most drafts would be like, I don't know, 12th or lower to pick. And there is a pretty good chance that 21 could be there. I love the thought of getting any of these guys, to be honest. I wouldn't budge at the top 8 at all in the first round.
Yeah, our top 10, like I think I would be stoked to get any of these guys, and I'd be even happy with some of the guys coming that we won't be able to talk about. Maybe we'll mention if we have time after this.
There's so many.
But like you said, the top 6 on my board, like if they're all going to be, if they're all in the first round, I wouldn't be surprised.
So, I was thinking about when we did the wide receiver podcast and how we said pretty much the top 20 guys we could talk about all day because of the strength. And I'm pretty sure I could talk about the top 19. I mean, that's just how good of a class we have here. And that's so rare. I mean, I just cannot get over that.
I wholeheartedly agree. But how about we get started with our top 10 tackles in this class?
All right, well, let's start with your number 10.
My number 10, I wonder if he'll be the same as yours. Blake Fisher.
He actually is. Yeah, that's my number 10 as well.
God, so if you're looking for an all-round athlete that's like a freak, he's not it. But he does everything you want a tackle to do pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, a 3-year starter at the right tackle position at Notre Dame. He's got the power. I mean, he's a great power guy. His run blocking was pretty decent most of the time. I do remember seeing him do quite a few chop blocks, and that disappointed me because I think with the skill level he has, it's almost unacceptable. But man, like all in all, I really like this guy.
Like he does a great job, especially in the gap running scheme. Like when you're with his combo blocking, like he can just move people off to the side with certain angles. I don't think he has like great strength, which is why I see him in more of a combo blocker guy.
Really?
Like he has good strength. I'm not like he doesn't have.
I wouldn't say he overpowered anybody.
No.
But I mean, 6'5", 310, maybe he could put on a little more.
That's what I mean. Like the muscle weight is kind of what I'm looking for with, because there were times where I saw him struggle against the bull rush, like just a couple of times. And I mean, they were really good bull rushes. Like most of these tackles would have a hard time with it too. But
I did notice he had bad hand placements. I think he needs to work on his hands. He lets people get to his chest too often, and I feel like that's where maybe he's a little weak.
Right. Maybe it's just a technique thing.
He also gets high sometimes as well. But I could pretty much say that about all of these guys in this class. There's very few that don't get high at times. I mean, it's just
the nature.
It's just the nature of the it's just the nature of the position.
Right. Yeah. The one thing I didn't like was kind of more. I didn't like how he played in space, especially in the run game. Like I thought he was a little over aggressive. He missed a bunch of blocks, and I think he has enough speed to be a good puller every now and then. I wouldn't say he would be consistent at it, but
I don't even know if I ever saw him pull.
yeah, I don't. I think I've seen him like once or twice, but it was very rare.
I
And when
saw
I say space, I just mean like he can go down to the 10, go 10 yards pretty quickly. He just been missing blocks.
Yeah, I mean, I really like him. I know he's moving up the draft boards right now. I think he's actually a solid second round pick now. The more time that goes on, guys who they were claiming are second round picks at first, I think are moving down the board, and he seems to really be moving up. Like I said, his athleticism is not that great, but I mean, he does, as I've said before, he has issues with hand placement. I think he can work on those, but I thought all around he was a really good right tackle. I mean, if you need a right tackle, this guy I think could be plug and play. I don't know if I'd even let him sit. I think starting right away is a good idea with this one, just because of his experience.
Yeah, and I would say I would totally take him as like a year one backup type, and if somebody gets hurt, like he can come in and play pretty admirably,
I also think he
even
could
if
play
he doesn't
guard.
start right away. And he could go, oh, definitely.
Yeah,
Wholeheartedly agree. I think he has the movement skills to play that, and like I said, I really liked his combo blocking, so wouldn't be too hard. But I just feel if I'd rather him play tackle at first because I think his technique and natural feel for the position was pretty good, and you can tell he has the football IQ to play too. Because I've watched him do some fun little mental games against some of these rushers. You know,
yeah, he definitely seems to read the defense very well.
right?
He understands, his duties. Like I said, I really like him. All right, who's your number 9?
My 9 is Kingsley Suamatea out of BYU.
Oh,
We
okay.
got a nice beefy boy for you guys out there.
So he's 13th ranked on my list, but to be fair, my 9 to I would say 15 could be argued in those last two spots. I mean, that's how close. A lot of them have some really great traits, but there's some little things maybe I'm not crazy about. I mean, this guy, total opposite, very athletic.
Oh my god, he's a freak of nature. All the size you want.
I also think he's pretty versatile. Like I think he could play 4 of the 5 positions almost right away if he needed to. Sadly, I didn't think he was very good in the run game.
I saw he also was one of those guys that didn't really utilize space very well when
No,
he was out there. He would miss his punches a lot.
he
I
definitely
would see
missed his reads.
sometimes you would see him like try to make a lunge towards a guy and completely like whiff and lose
Yep.
his balance and not fall over, but you're kind of just like, oh, that's
Yeah,
embarrassing.
had to catch himself. I also saw there was definitely a game where the read he missed basically lost them the game. He missed the
Oh, it just
edge
was
on the
against Texas or
outside.
something.
I think it was Texas, yeah, and the quarterback got I mean the edge got a clear shot at the quarterback, fumbled the ball, lost them the game. Like I said, athletically, this guy, I think he's top tier. I mean, 6'6", 326, 34-inch arms. That's fantastic. Size wise, he played. I think didn't he play 2 years at right tackle and one at left?
I think he had one full year starting at right and one full year starting at
Oh yeah, because he had
left,
an injury.
and then he got hurt.
Yeah,
So I think he was going to play another full year this year too, wasn't it?
I
Or was
think
it in
so.
2022?
But like I said, I mean, athleticism wise, I have him ranked pretty high on our list.
Yeah.
But I thought his strength wasn't the best, even with his size. And I think his technique and his IQ were definitely the low spots on my rankings.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be one of those guys who's going to need some technical work. Like his hand placement wasn't that great. He
No, it wasn't.
waits for the defenders a lot to make the first strike, not very aggressive, which is fine. You don't have to be aggressive to be successful, but just having his hands sit out there too long for the pass rushers to hit him. Stood upright too much, so you couldn't really get that much leverage. And like you said, the run blocking has been suspect. And the other part, like you said, was football IQ. Not really understanding blitz packages too much,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's something he'll be able to pick up in the right offensive system. But
but he was great in pass pro for the
yeah,
most part though. Like he made he made plays look routine despite how sloppy his technique looked. He was always in a very good position a lot of the time.
he he kind of reminds me of somebody maybe the Eagles would pick up because like he's kind of like that kind of projecty guy that could be overlooked.
Get trained up by
Yeah,
the
bulk him up a little bit, train him up on that O line. I think he could be a key piece. Seriously, I
oh
think
yeah.
we could be overlooking him.
I mean, he has versatility to play either side, and he has all the athleticism to be successful. He just has to put it all together.
Like definitely a lower floor than our number 10, but
Hmm.
the ceiling is very high.
Yeah, I have a good round 2, 3 grade on him.
Yeah, I think of him as a second round pick. All right. So my number 9 is Kieran Amagaji.
I love
I know
it.
I'm
For
messing that up, and
even
I
if you
apologize.
the one time you say it right, you're not going to know which one it was.
I know, but he's a tackle out of Yale. His off the line explosiveness was awesome to me. I really like how explosive he can be. I did think this guy had issues finishing blocks. Strength was a noticeable issue at times, which does make me a little nervous just because he played for Yale, so he's not playing top tier talent. In fact, I'm trying to think of what the best team was he probably played, probably Harvard. They've had some guys. I mean, but he's 6'5, 323, 36-inch and an eighth arm length, which is the highest of anybody in this draft. I think there's one other guy with arms that long, but it's insane. I mean, that that he has arms that long. I mean, for a tackle, this is one position where you really want to keep in mind something like that. So he did play left tackle. He's I think he played left tackle 2 years, and I think he played a little bit of left guard
No, he's actually
one
right
year.
guard.
Was it right guard?
Yeah, it's really weird.
Okay.
I mean, I could let me look that up
I
actually.
thought yeah, I thought on PFF it said left guard because I thought it was interesting that it seemed like he only played the left side. But the problem is this guy did have a little bit of an injury history, so he doesn't have a crazy amount of play time. Definitely, as I've said before.
Oop, that's my bad.
So it is both left side.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. But his football IQ was definitely, I think, his biggest weakness. Picking up reads from time to time wasn't his strong suit. Once again, I think this is something that's fixable. Overall, I mean, the size, his strength, his athleticism was good. I wouldn't say it was great. That explosiveness that he has, I really impressed me. What did you think of him?
Oh my god, dude! Like watching his athleticism and size get put to work, like it was just so he could not get around him half the time because his arm length and wingspan was so long, so wide. Like it was hard to beat him around the edge a lot of the time. Not that he like with his technique and stuff, he wasn't that good, but he was really good at redirecting. Now this is obviously at his competition level, so it's hard to say how he would do against people like Liatu Latu or really fast, quick guys. But
Yeah, and he didn't attend the Senior Bowl, I don't think either.
yeah, no, he did not,
No,
which is
because
where
of
I
his
would have
injury.
really loved to see. But
Yeah,
and his hands could be a little bit more consistent. Doesn't really time his punches very well, and he's another one of these guys, just like the other two, pretty over aggressive in the run game, and he does lose his balance. But
yeah,
he's just such a mover though. Like he can just get out into space so quickly. Like his get off can move big dudes like instantly. The only problem is, like you said, he doesn't really have the strength to keep it up like for very long. Like his initial power is good, but it's a drop off, and he doesn't move people much further than his initial punch. I mean, he's a quick reactor though. He has great feel for the position. Like obviously, as his technique gets better, he'll be able to tie his reaction time with his hands, and he could potentially be a lockdown guy in the future. But with his torn quad that he had this year, he's probably going to fall down a lot of other people's boards too because of that lack of film people will have from the Senior Bowl and seeing him play better competition. it's really hard to justify him much higher for me because I think I have him at 12.
And I totally understand it.
But yeah,
I just think the explosiveness was, it's there's not a lot of these guys in this class I thought that had that kind of explosiveness off the line, and I really like to see that effort.
yeah.
All right. Well, who do you have at number 8?
At my number 8 is Jordan Morgan out of Arizona.
That is also mine.
I love him, man.
I
He's,
do
he's
too.
so
I think he's extremely underrated. Of anybody on this list, I think he is the most underrated guy on the board because, like, I've seen so many things where everybody's like, "Oh, he's a guard." And the reason everybody thinks he's a guard is because he has 32 and 7/8 inch arms. And, like the ideal number is 34-inch arms, but a lot of tackles in the league are 33s. There's a lot of tackles in the league that have 32-inch arms too. Like, it's not an uncommon thing,
yeah.
but the way he plays the position, which is, like the technique, the IQ is all there.
Oh, absolutely. It's funny because it's like when people say that obviously the ideal you want is about, 34-inch arms. You can live with 33 and a half. Once you get below 33, your margin for error is usually pretty low. You have to have extremely good technique to be successful. And that's, the reason they don't like a lot of people with a lot of tackles with those kinds of arms is because usually the guys on the edges are also longer. They also have long arms. And two, the success rate for those players out there and the ceiling for their capabilities is usually a little lower. Having longer arms does make it easier, but he is so good and he deserves to play tackle, and I think he would be successful at it. I think
Yeah,
he'd be also a great guard though if he was ever forced to play that position. And I think he has all the athleticism, and maybe he could build up the strength to play those bigger guys in the middle. But no, he definitely deserves to play tackle, and that's where I would put him year one.
absolutely.
Like,
I mean, I think he was what, a 2 or 3 year starter at left tackle. Is it 3?
yeah, it's 3 years.
Yeah, I thought it was 3. 3 year starter at left tackle for Arizona, and his film at first, I thought he played a little soft at the start of this year, but man, as the year went on, all of a sudden he became a mauler.
Yeah, he
A
did.
few games in, and I'm like, wow, what changed? And then when you see him at the Senior Bowl, he's bullying people.
His first punch is so good.
It
He
is.
can drive guys downfield pretty consistently.
I,
His
I'm
his strong his hands are the deciding factor on that. Like he kind of like locks people down with those paw hands.
Yeah, and I mean, I noticed he definitely keeps good balance, like, and his footwork is pretty good. I mean, he is a little slow off the line,
Yeah.
which I found a little bit of an issue, but I just feel like he doesn't trip over himself. He keeps his feet nice and wide, and he doesn't let defenders take advantage of him. He really doesn't. He keeps solid. I really like this guy. I thought he was very consistent through the tape I watched as the year went on. Like, I think, I don't know. I think it was like fourth game in forward that it seemed like he was better.
Yeah. That
Um,
it was really fun to watch him on the UCLA game because you're gonna want to watch the matchup between him and Liatu Latu, and Liatu pretty much avoided playing that side the whole time. One, because I mean the right tackle was getting beat by him, so why not stay over there and keep sacking the quarterback? But even when he went to the left, he made sure not to even rush his side. He either went into coverage or he decided to play the tackle or the tight end instead. Like I think there was maybe only a couple of reps he played, and Jordan Morgan shut him down every time. So, and he's one of the best pass rushers in this class.
well, we saw other tackles bully him as well, so I don't. I'm not gonna call him that until I finish up my film on edges. I'm still working on that.
I'm just saying, consensus wise, he is. So, which I find, with Jordan Morgan though, like I do find sometimes he can go too far outside to count, like because he's not going to be as athletic as like Sumatea or Ahmed Jedabadi Kieran from Yale.
We can
He
just call him Yale Tackle.
yeah, that Yale tackle boy. So he compensates by trying to go a little further out against speed, so he ends up getting countered inside a little bit more. But I mean, other than that, like he's awesome. Like I have a pure round two grade on him.
Yeah, yeah.
I could totally
Well,
see him going in the first though,
I could see him going late first.
just because of how the drop off between these tackles. Like probably after Jordan Morgan, like on this list, like Jordan Morgan would be like the one I'd be, all right, there's a little bit of a drop off here of someone who can start day one. If you want that guy, you're going to have to get him earlier than, you'd expect. So,
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said, I really like him. I think he's got the strength, he's got the size, arm length's an issue, and he's not fast, but otherwise, I love this guy.
all right,
So
bud.
yeah, who's
How
your
about you do
my
your seven?
my number 7 is Tyler Guyton out of
Well, what
Oklahoma.
what a coincidence. He's mine too.
Oh, dude, this is one of my sweethearts of the draft.
Is he really?
Yeah, I really like the measurables are pretty great, and man, watching him in the Senior Bowl, I mean, he was punishing people. It's it was so clear, which one he was on the field. I was like, oh, okay, that's got to be him. At 6'8", man, 322, 34-inch arms. His size is fantastic. His technique is, I think, very good. He keeps his balance well. The only issue is he only started for one season and he didn't even play the whole season. That kind of worries me. He is a right tackle, or he played right tackle this year. I know he played a little bit of left, but like his pass blocking, I graded his pass blocking pretty darn good. And I thought his run blocking was good, but I didn't think it was as good as his pass blocking. I think he's got the strength and the athleticism. I think he reads plays very well, and I really enjoyed his technique. I just think his biggest issue is definitely he lacks play time.
I mean, I will say he's probably the one of the highest upside tackles in this class. That he's very developmental because I mean, if you watch his tape and his first snap could be a disaster sometimes. Like some of his
Yeah,
tape is
absolutely.
really fucking bad, but you watch some magic happen every now and then too because he can be absolutely flawless on some plays and look like guaranteed Pro Bowler. Like, but he definitely has inconsistency issues or consistency issues.
Which a
And
guy who's only started 8 games, I would expect
oh
to
yeah,
have that kind of issue.
it's to be expected. But wait, how many games he start?
I think it was only 8.
Gotcha. He played over 1,000 snaps at right tackle, which is probably like about a year's worth of snaps, maybe a little bit more.
Makes sense. And I mean, I know people are going to knock him pretty hard for that experience, but I mean, he was competing with Anton Harrison last year, who was a first round pick for that tackle spot. I mean, and the guy who was playing left those last 3 years, he's going in this draft too, and he's a solid, I think, day 2 pick. There was a lot of good offensive linemen on this team, so it's not like he was backing up somebody that didn't deserve to be there. I can't knock him too much for it.
I mean, that's kind of like going to be the issues when you're playing in schools like that. Like you were, I think we were talking about previously. Like continuity is so important
Oh,
in that
absolutely.
as well. So he's extremely difficult to beat around the edge. Like he's so quick. Like he eats up space so fast. So if you're trying to go around the edge, like you're not going to beat him that easily. His movement in space is also pretty good. I like him in close spaces more, but I mean he can do either scheme types of running schemes. His get off and punch is fantastic when he does land it because he has so much power behind him.
Oh yeah.
Other than some of his issues with like missing blocks in the run game, I
Yeah,
don't really have much to complain about.
he did miss some blocks. That was definitely something I noticed. I mean, for the most part, man, the upside is just hard to ignore.
Speaking of what you said with an experience, like did you know he didn't start playing tackle until college?
Oh yeah, you did say something about that. Yeah, he played defensive lineman, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
Crazy.
wild.
They're like, hey, we kind of need someone your size to get on this side of the line. And he's like, all right, sure, I'll give it a shot. And he's so athletic, you don't even have to worry about it.
I just can't imagine him as a defensive lineman. He would kind of remind me of that Gabe Hall out of Baylor. the
Maybe.
defensive lineman. But yeah, I think he made the right choice.
Yeah, I mean,
I definitely see him as a a first round pick.
I have a pure round two on him just because of his terrible tape and on
I
some
mean, you
plays.
say terrible tape. I look, he was inconsistent, but for a first year start, I mean, for your first year starting, I think he played very well. Like when you
Yeah.
compare him to guys like Jordan Morgan, who's had 3 years experience, I bet if we go back and look at his first year, it probably wasn't as great either.
Oh yeah, sure. I'm just saying without the it's more unknown though for his development track, and so him being that boomer bust for me, I have a pure round two for him.
Do you have his age in there?
No, I do not. I can get it if you want.
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious what he because I think he's
Let's
pretty
see
young.
here. Yeah, 21 and a half.
Yeah, he's 21. I mean,
That's pretty damn good for
I'm pretty sure
someone that
Morgan's
age.
like 23. So, and a handful of the other guys on this list are up there too.
Right.
So, I mean, he's one of the younger guys. There's definitely two, maybe three younger guys on this list. And I mean that the younger you are, the better.
Look, I mean, if he's there at 16 or 20 and there's other guys on the board, like I don't want to take him. But if all the other guys are gone and I need to reach into the first round to get him, I would still be stoked to get him.
I would take him at 20. I would
I
absolutely take him at 20. If he's the last one there of these top seven, I would take him.
yeah.
I don't think I'd take him over our next six. Let's hear your number six.
So my 6 and 5 are so close in grade, you could flip them. I think I have a.
I have like a 1% difference basically
Oh wait, do
between
I?
those two.
Hold on, let me refilter my grades here. Okay, cool. Yeah, they're like about point 0.1 away in my grading scale. I have an 89.7 on this guy, Marius Mims.
Yeah, he's my number five.
And like I said, 89.8 for the next guy for me. So they're right there. You can pick either one, and I'd be stoked.
But yeah, Marius Mims, man, this is the guy that realistically I want at 20. This is the one for me. Definitely has the highest bust potential, I think, of the offensive linemen on this list. He was dealing with injuries, including like an ankle. He had an ankle injury that was kind of off and on. He does lack experience. He only has 1 year as a starter, but kind of like Guyton. I mean, he was backing up Broderick Jones and a few other really good offensive linemen, Jamari Slayer from 2 years ago. I mean, there's a lot of talent on Georgia's offensive line that he had to compete with, and it doesn't shock me that he had to be a backup for a few years. With that lack of experience, he definitely missed some blocks from time to time. But I mean, his actual his lack of experience, is a problem. But everything else to me is elite. I mean, his size, man, 6'7", 340, 36 inch, and an eighth
They
arms.
actually had him measure at 6'8" at the combine.
Ooh,
He's even bigger than you want. Look at
his
you see his hand size too, by the way.
I did not.
11.3.
Oh my god.
Which most of the guys are like expecting like 10.5,
Yeah.
like up maybe 10 straight. Some of these guys are like 9.8, but he has bare paws for hands,
Oh,
latching onto everything. Like his measurables for a tackle is top tier.
but like
His life gets so much easier when you're his size because you make everything so difficult to get around you, and you're like going to be you're going to be grabbing the defender before they get you most of the time.
but even with his size, I mean, even with that large size and being able to use that as an advantage, his technique and his footwork are fantastic.
Well, that's what I was going to
I
say
think
to
he
you.
bends great.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like, I honestly don't even think he is the highest boom or bust potential, unless you count the injury possibilities.
Well,
because
the
when you're
injury
that,
and lack of experience are
when you're
really what would give that
well,
bust
what
potential.
I mean about like his floor seems a lot higher just because of his technique was already so good. Like compared to Tyler Guyton.
I mean, if we're being, if I put the tinfoil hat here on for a second, I think he has one of the highest ceilings of the offensive line,
I also agree
all
with that
offensive
too.
linemen in this draft.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's not many offensive linemen that ever come out at this size. He played right tackle this season. but I thought his pass blocking and run blocking, it might have been a little inconsistent, but it was good most of the time.
Yeah.
I definitely think his pass blocking was very good. I think he's got the strength. I think he's a very good athlete. Like I said, the only thing, if I had to really knock something, I really think he was missing a few reads.
Yeah.
I really think,
No, I saw some of this too.
but once again, I think playtime can
Absolutely.
fix those type of issues. I'm not worried about him at all. Like I said, I would run to the podium
Yeah.
and
I mean, he plays
like,
he plays so natural for the position. Like, I mean, rushing sometimes, like when you watch his tape, it's like rushing him's like watching a dude run into a brick wall sometimes. Like you're not moving him very much. And especially if you're trying to run him with power, you're not gonna he does not displace very much. And his like you said, his bend is also very good, so he doesn't get like that doubles down on his bull rush protection. He sits super wide, I've noticed. So he already has like, but I feel like they had to coach that into him because he's so tall. Like
oh
he had to
yeah,
sit lower and wider.
but he
Um,
chops his feet well.
yes,
I
he
mean, he
does.
really, he
Like, can you imagine how awkward that is? You have to sit so low and also chop your feet well, like when you're that
and
size.
he gets into his stance like very well. Like dude, he it wouldn't shock me if in 5 years from now we talk about this draft class. We say, yeah, he was the best offensive lineman from that class.
Oh yeah,
I
certainly.
really, man, I there's so much I like about this guy.
Yeah, I think he could be like everything hits Hall of Fame kind of level player.
Yeah,
But right now, he's just got a lot of work to do. Like I do see him in the run game needing some work. He does seem, especially in the run game, he's comes off a little sluggish. Like there's some hesitation going forward, and
I think there's hesitation because he's trying to understand who to get to.
yeah,
But
but
like I said, I'm not terribly worried about this.
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Like that's all kind of going encapsulating his inexperience, and I'm just you know backing it up with what I saw. But
All right.
how about you give me your six then?
Well, my number 6 was J.C. Latham, and again, that was your number 5.
Yes.
So the reason he was my 6 and not my 5 was because there was two glaring problems I noticed. Let's go through everything here before we go there. This guy's probably the second best masher in the run game in this draft. I mean, this is another guy who's going to bully you. I mean, he's just a giant human being, 6'5", 342 pounds and 35-inch and 1/8 arms. He's very strong.
Yes, he is.
Like
He packs a lot of
I don't
power.
think I ever saw anybody outmuscle him, and if I did, it was like once.
Well, it's like it only will mess with him if he lets them.
Yeah.
That's what he does a lot.
Yeah, it kind of is that
Why
way.
are you letting? Why it's with all the lack of effort? So with him sometimes, like
Well,
that's
and that's the first big problem that I had with him was this lack of effort, and it kills me, man, because if I didn't see this lack of effort, and when I say lack of effort, I need to explain a little more here. What he does is about 4 seconds into the play, he almost just stops blocking. And there was multiple instances of him doing this, and the guy he stopped blocking hitting the quarterback. I saw it on multiple games. I saw it multiple times in the same games happen. And to me, that is unacceptable. I mean, you cannot do that. You cannot have this kind of talent and do things like that. Like, I consider this guy, I think I would probably have moved him up to probably third on my list if not for this issue, and also for the fact that he had 7 penalties this year.
yeah. My theory on why he has so many penalties, and I'd have to actually look into what those penalties were. But if they were holding, their quarterback is a guy who likes to run out of the pocket
Yeah,
extremely
Milrow.
frequent, and Milrow will run to his side a lot too. And a lot of the time, if he's running to his side, he's still running the block, and he's not expecting him to run that soon. I mean, he's probably holding on to the dude a little bit too long without expecting him to stay in the pocket.
I just
Now,
feel like
then there's other plays where, as you see the seasons go on, like in some of the later games, he's letting go. Like he knows Milrose's going to have that tendency to run out. So as soon as he sees feels the defender pull, he's letting go, which I did think that was a quite the improvement and smart thinking, or at least I guess good coaching, either or. I don't know. He's also very young and he has tons of potential to improve. Like you said, he's super fucking strong. His hands like lock people in because he's got really strong hands as well in the run game. Like like you said, he's a masher. Like
Oh, he does mash,
he's gonna
but
displace some bodies in the run game.
but once again, in the run game, there's times where he just doesn't finish his blocks, and he needs to. I don't know if it's a conditioning issue because of how big the guy is at 342. That's one of the heavier guys on our list. He might be number. I mean, he's the highest I see,
Yeah,
but
he's definitely up
by a
there.
significant amount. The other issue I had was his speed at times. I mean, he definitely is pretty slow.
I think in space he's actually can move pretty fast. I think it's quickness that bothers me the most
Well,
because
I guess that's where I'm going with this.
okay,
But the other issue I definitely noticed was if edges try twisting on him,
yeah,
or if they do a really good rip, he doesn't have the hand techniques down enough yet to combat it.
he might not even have the athletic ability. Like his body might not be able to move in a way to get those quick inside counter stuff that people will use on him. Because he's got beat by that way too many times for my liking, where he's setting so far out to counter the speed, and the guy he's like, all right, well then I can just easily run inside, and Melrose getting hit. I that's what's kind of scares me. If that is true, how his movement ability is, the sad part is like that would be the movement ability of a guard, but his size is so big, I don't think he could ever play guard.
No, I only see him as a
So
tackle.
right,
And I think he
so
played, what, 3 years at right tackle? Yeah, 3-year starter at right tackle. I'm pretty sure of
yeah,
that.
I think he was a full starter for most of his snaps were in 2022 and 2023. I think he got like 800 each of those years.
I mean, he's absolutely probably the strongest guy, probably the strongest tackle overall. I mean, if he gets his hands on you, you're done. And I definitely think he's a smart player. Like, he definitely understands, his reads on the defense. He knows where he needs to be. It's just this lack of effort thing, man. It bugs me.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if his potential wasn't so high, he would probably drop even lower for me. Like it would be, I don't know. I don't like that kind of attitude, but he has just so much potential.
Yeah, I mean, if I saw this out of a guy who didn't have this, like if he was just average talent, I wouldn't have even had him on my list,
Right.
even with his measurables. So let's get to
The meat, the good
oh
stuff,
man,
the top tier, top
the
shelf,
this
top shelf.
next these next top four to me are all top tier tackles. Like all of these guys, this top four, any of these guys could be the number one tackle other years.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Um, I just cannot get over this talent, man. It is just so impressive. Like this is the year. If you want to tackle this, you better go get it.
Yeah, and you better get it soon because the drop off between these
It-
4, 5, 6 is going to be a like these four guys, especially like you're going to feel real comfortable starting them day one, like
I agree.
with very little concerns aside from minor problems we'll bring up to you in a second. But number 4 for me is Troy Fontenot out of
That's who I
Washington,
have too.
and he is just such a fun ass watch,
He's
man.
probably one of my favorite offensive linemen I've ever watched. He's just so exciting, man. His the way he mashes people, the burst that he has at times, like he is an elite athlete, and yet he's shaped like a bowling ball almost.
I know. What was he? He's like 6'4", 317 pounds with 34.5-inch arms.
Which his height might come off as concerning to some, but he plays like a big guy. I
Right.
mean, he's built like a Mack truck.
And that will also help him in the run game because he can get lower than most tackles can. Get
And
that leverage needed.
the thing with this guy is, man, his initial punch on the defender, he can put his hand through your chest.
Oh yeah,
I mean, he's
his
got
punch is
insane
fantastic.
strength, and he's athletic. He's got quick feet. There's just so much
I think
to like
he's
about him.
probably the most athletic of the 4 guys we have here. I think I would argue that. Just like
Maybe
his speed and explosiveness, I think is higher than most of them.
his explosiveness, I definitely think, is better than the top three.
literally he can play even if like you have a tackle already, and he can. I think he could play guard pretty easily too.
I mean,
Like
as a
you just want him on that line somewhere, regardless if you're going to play him a tackle or not. I think he is definitely a tackle, and that's where you'd want to keep him.
yeah, I would have him at tackle.
But if you already have someone, if you still need to know like no lineman, but you already have two good tackles right now, I mean, still draft him because you want your best guys out there, and he would play awesome anywhere on the line. I think.
I mean, I think my first question to this guy would be, where do you want to play? Because I don't care where you play. I just want you on my team.
Yeah,
I don't like it's just the talent is just absolute elite.
I liked him in pass protection more than in run defense, though.
Oh, me
I
too.
mean, his hands were so fast. His footwork was great. Like
He's
he was
decent technique.
yeah, he was pretty like there was hard to find him where he's not in front of the defender or at least redirecting people pretty consistently
And
if he does lose. Like he has the recovery to beat losses a lot of the time.
I mean his physicality is excellent. I mean that's what makes him so much fun to watch. He just wants to hit people, but with that in mind, I think he had 6 penalties last season. And also on run blocks, every once in a while he's missing blocks because he's just trying to mash people.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell he wants to work, man. And obviously that's what you want to see in a guy, but not if he's like getting out of position or being over aggressive. Like he just really loves playing the game. And
Yeah,
that can bite him in the ass sometimes, especially, and that really shows in the run game sometimes. But
but I'll tell you another cool fact about this guy is he got the academic honors.
I do like to hear
And
that.
and and man, that's I always love seeing that. That's never a downside. Ever. So I was really impressed to see that as well. So yeah, so that was our both of our number 4s. Look at this. Actually
Let's.
agreeing on some stuff.
How about you do give it a 3 then,
Yeah, I got
and
this.
maybe we'll be the same again.
Well, my number 3 is Talisi Fuaga out of Oregon State.
Yeah, I know we're all being cheeky here because we already know who that we're definitely going to be agreeing on
It's
most of
not as
these.
it's not as exciting for us as
Yeah,
we
yeah,
usually
exactly.
was. It was more exciting the first time around.
I know, but I mean, if you want to see somebody exciting to watch, and we said Fontenot is good, I mean, Fuaka in the run game
Oh
is
man.
that stuff is hot stuff right there.
So we brought up earlier when we were talking about Jordan Morgan that Tulatu basically avoided Jordan Morgan. Let me tell you something. When Tulatu went up against Fuaga, he got bullied. Like I'm pretty sure he put in some complaints after the game because he just got bullied time and time again by Fuaga, and he made it look easy. I mean, he threw him around like a rag doll. This guy has probably the best physicality in this draft. I mean, he comes in at 6'5", 324, 33 and an eighth inch arms. I think he was a 3-year starter at right tackle, but he could also play guard if needed. He definitely has the versatility to do it. But like, dude, he's got great balance in the pass game. He doesn't seem to lose a step. He's like I said, he has physicality through the roof. But with that physicality, we've seen 8 penalties as well. I did find out that a significant amount of those penalties was from false starts.
Right.
He definitely seems to have an issue with false starts.
You just get so excited, man. Cut him a break.
Yeah, I know. He just wants to hit people, man. And you know something, like they pull with this guy, and he's got the athletic ability to pull pretty quick. He's got quick feet, and he's a strong guy. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, watching his first punch in the run game, or even just in general, and just like throw people off balance, chucking people
he
across the
does like to
field.
chuck people.
It's like I
Like
didn't know you could pick someone up that size and throw them that far, but holy shit!
I think Fatanu's punch was better than his, but Fuaga likes to just throw people. I
Yeah,
mean, it's it's insane. I
yeah.
mean, this
He probably has one of my favorite hand fighting techniques, though. Like
I
he's
agree.
so his hands every time he's like getting pushed out of position, like it's always being reset. Like he's not going to let you beat him in hand fighting. He takes it very seriously, and and he's always going to be in a tough, put you in a tough position as a pass rusher
Oh,
every
absolutely.
time. And you're not going to really beat him out wide that much either. With how strong he is, like you're not going to beat him in bull rushes that much either.
And he had 0 sacks allowed.
Yeah, that was another big thing. His pressure rate was about, what you'd expect of these top guys. I think the lowest ones of pressure rate we've had so far is Amarius Mims, but
He played the least amount of games as
well,
well.
the pressure rate's based on
Oh,
how
is
many
it?
snap. It's by snap.
Okay.
He's just great though. Oh, like I honestly don't even know how much more to even talk about him because he's just. I mean, other than like he has some weaknesses and his again over aggressiveness. Like all these guys just because they just love playing the game, they just get real trigger happy in the run game.
I
But
I have a hard time believing this guy leaves pick 15 in this draft. Like I feel like even if teams don't want him towards the top, if they have bigger priorities, I feel like somebody's going to trade up for him. The elite physicality that we see is just very rare.
no, watching Fuaga just brings me joy,
Oh
and
yeah, I
he's
love
gonna
him.
bring a lot of teams joy. Let me tell you.
Once again, this is a guy that could be the first tackle taken off the board many years. I know I've said that before, but like seriously, like I don't say that lightly. I really don't. He definitely would have been number one last year. But all right. Well, so with that in mind, I'm pretty sure we have the same number two, which
I
I
would say
didn't.
I'm 100% sure.
Yeah. And our number two on the board is Olu Fashanu out of Penn State. I'm a big Penn State guy, so for me, I was trying to be conservative in his grading, and I found even being conservative that wow, he definitely was the number two on this board. He's an absolute elite athlete. Like he's got great footwork, high football IQ. He locks down guys, man. Like
He
it
really
it
does.
was hard to find problems with his game, especially in the passing.
Yeah, this he kind of like watching him play is kind of like watching a robot play tackle.
Yeah.
Just the same thing over and over again, but doing it almost perfectly every time. Like
I mean, his measurables are basically a test tube tackle. Like they made him in a test tube. 6'6", 312, 34-inch arms. He's a left tackle. And like his athleticism is fantastic. His strength is fantastic. He's a smart player. He's a good dude. I saw him. The thing that amazes me with him and where I had to put him at number two is how many times he had to make up for the left guard missing his block, and he had to block a defender into the guy that
oh yeah.
he missed. Like it happened many times. I didn't even know how many times that happened, and like it shocked me to go back and see this. I mean, he's absolutely impressive.
Yeah, like obviously people will criticize him in the run game, and I would say
He
there's
needs to
definitely
work
some
on it.
criticisms there for sure.
Oh yeah,
But I mean, I would say his run game is pretty good, and hell, I think he's so good at pass pro. Even if he was bad at the run game, I would still probably take him.
he's definitely not a mauler. He's not
Right?
he's not going to run people over, but he's going to hit his blocks.
Yeah,
He's not flashy about it. He just does the job.
like a goddamn robot. But I mean, like
I
his anchor is fantastic. He's flexible as hell. Like
Oh yeah,
his
his bend is great.
watching him play go against bull rushes that you think he's going to lose on. His anchor's so good he can still pull it off even if like his technique fails the few times it ever happens.
And
Like
at time on bull rushes, he'll drive them right back.
oh yeah, that too.
And like the other thing with this guy is he had 0 sacks. Another guy, 0 sacks. That's very rare.
Yep, and between him and Fuaga, like obviously Fuaga had like 3.4% pressure rate this year. Foshnu had 2.7. And that was his worst year, and I think most of that was because
The Ohio State
the
game.
Ohio State game. And if you just throw that out, his resume looks unblemished.
Which, and let's be straight here. The guys who he was playing against at Ohio State are round 1 and 2,
Respectively.
round 1 to 3 players all around.
And
So
on top of it, the whole team looked like it was playing bad. Like that whole O
absolutely.
line was just a mess.
Yeah, and I mean the left guard was a problem this year. He
And even
disappointed me.
yeah, and the quarterback wasn't doing him much favors either. That right, he was
Well,
holding the
it's
ball
first
too
year
long.
starter. I
I'm not.
mean,
I'm just saying. I'm not criticizing him to say whatever. I'm just
look,
the whole
I'm a
team.
I'm a
The
little
whole team.
sensitive to you talking about my quarterback. Okay, all right,
Look, I only did that to get a little bit of passion out of you.
that thing you don't have.
I don't.
You only have that for Tyler Lockett.
Yeah, exactly. There's really not much to hate on his game.
No, there really isn't.
Like
He's solid.
if I'm going to nitpick him, I think even though his anchor's good, I think he could put on get a little bit more strength in his game.
Yeah, he's not as strong as Fuaga or even Fatanu, but he just uses his techniques so well that he doesn't need to do it. But I definitely agree that he does need to work on it.
Yeah, like there's really not much to complain.
I
Like
think
obviously he has to work on his run in the run game, but like you said, he sticks to the game plan pretty consistently overall. He gets the space a lot of the time. He doesn't like chase the angles that are necessary for the run game to really explode sometimes because he kind of defends the space. But
oh yeah. Now, I don't think it's fair to put our number 1 in this, but I mean, of the top 4 guys, I definitely think his techniques, like his bending, his staying low, his hand placement might be the best.
yeah, yeah. I mean, let's just go right to our number 1 as a
Yeah,
comparison because I mean Joe Alt obviously
out of Notre Dame.
he's an absolute menace, like 6'9", freak of nature.
321 pounds, 34-inch and a quarter arms, 3-year
His
left tackle.
his technique is so good. Like even despite his size, usually I would find his size to actually be a problem. Like being taller as a tackle sometimes can be a detriment if you're not going to be a good. You have to be a good pass protector if you're going to be that tall. And Joe Alt is all of that because
Yeah,
he's a fantastic pass protector.
I mean, when you see a tackle that's 6'9", usually it's not a good sign because a lot of those guys cannot bend and usually don't have as good techniques. But that is not the case with Joe Alt. I mean, he's so good all the way around. He's an absolute elite athlete. There's no question for me. His footwork was fantastic. He's another guy that I think could be a little more physical in the run game. But even with his athletics, like how quick he is,
He ends up losing the leverage battle sometimes just
yeah,
because
because of
he's
his
so tall.
size.
Like you're not going to get.
But I think that's going to be less of an issue in the NFL, just because he's going
Hopefully,
to be playing against bigger guys all the time. But I definitely was impressed with the way he could pull
oh yeah,
as a tackle. Like you don't see a lot of guys do that, and he did it. I think at an elite
I
level.
think in high school he also played a bunch of different other positions.
I think yeah, I
But
remember you saying something about
it
that.
was like I think he played linebacker and like
I just
tight
can't imagine him
end
as a
and stuff.
linebacker.
Like
6'9" as a
well, yeah. I wonder
linebacker.
how much
6'8".
he's probably what 6'6" when he was at that point.
Even if he was 6'7", like my God,
Yeah, yeah,
man.
yeah. But like, yeah, he's fantastic, and like even a few times like the rep does get sloppy. Like he's so athletic, he readjusts and redirects and recovers so quickly that it's just going to be almost impossible to beat. Like his pressure percentage for this year was about 1.4%, which is fantastic. Like the only one was Amarius Mims at 0.4%, but doing this with over 2,000 career snaps, over 500 snaps all 3 years. I
So
mean
impressive.
that is fantastic. And 1 sack in 2023, zero in 2022.
Yeah, I
Like
mean that's amazing.
his resume speaks for itself. Let me tell you.
Yeah, I mean this guy is probably the best tackle prospect I've seen yet. And I really don't say that lightly. There's been a lot of great ones. A lot of guys coming out that I was a really big fan of, but man, this guy just checks all the boxes for me. I mean, the only complaint I had was physicality in the run game. Sometimes I don't blame him. I just think he's trying to play clean.
Yeah.
It's not like he's missing his blocks. It's not like, he's doing his job. I just think he could be a little more physical.
Yeah, I mean, and he's definitely clean as hell. I mean, he has only one penalty this last year, 4 in his total career. Like you're doing that many snaps. with only 4 penalties.
Yeah. No, I mean it's fantastic.
Like he's just a cerebral player, and I love everything about him. I wish he would fall to 16.
Dude, if he falls
He's not
out
going
of the top 5, it'll
to.
shock me.
Like this will be like the crazy part is this will be like the only draft that would even be possible,
I know.
which is crazy how awesome this draft is overall.
And like
Not just Eagles.
I know everybody's talking about, "Oh, well, you got to move up to go get the quarterback." This is one time I think I would completely understand a team for trading up with some significant picks to go get him. Just because there's not that many people on the earth this size and that can have this kind of athletic ability. Like, I
Yeah.
definitely want to see how many guys in the league are actually this size and can play with this athleticism. I bet you there's not.
I'd also like to see like how their success story was. Like, were they actually successful in the NFL at his size? Like, it'd be interesting to see, especially in this class. It's like I wouldn't be surprised if, as the rounds go on, or as the first round keeps going, like there's going to be a most of these trade ups. I think are going to be for tackles.
Yeah, and I don't blame anybody for doing it. I think like I said, the top 4 to me are completely solid. I don't see much bust potential out of the top 4. And the ceilings on honestly 7 or 8 to 1 are through the roof. I would definitely say maybe 7. 7 forward. I mean, I just love the ceiling, the potential of all of these guys. But yeah, with that in mind, we're going to talk about 2 guys that didn't make our list each. Just talk a little bit about these guys, some gems on the board,
Yeah, just
worthy
like
of talking
yeah,
about.
kind of just give you a quick positive and a quick negative to kind of explain why we are going to explain them as a gem, but why we couldn't justify putting them as our top 10. But how about you start us off?
Oh man, I'm going to start us off with Javon Foster out of Missouri.
I knew you weren't gonna you were
This
gonna pass
this
that up.
this guy was one of my favorites. Man, 3-year starter at left tackle. Man, he had great footwork and he stays really balanced, but he also had 10 penalties, which is why he could not make my list. But he was very consistent, and man, I love seeing a tackle that's consistent. I think he's like a 3rd round pick in my opinion. But there's just so much to like about this guy.
Yeah, me too. He has tons of experience. He's I found him pretty good at identifying blitzes and stunts. I would say his first move a lot of the time is always his best. Like he can dictate the rep a lot of the time. Like his get off in both the run and pass are so good, and he sets himself up for success in that first like half second
And
of the rep. And
he's got great size as well. I mean, 6'5", 313, 34-inch arm, 34 and 5/8 arms. I mean, that's ideal
yeah,
all the way across the board, and he has the experience. But like I said, the penalties are because he's so grabby.
yeah.
A lot of holding penalties.
And
But
I would say my negative on him would just be I think his even though he has this much of experience, like 3 straight years of 900 snaps, I think his technique is still a little meh.
agreed.
And like, and his arms kind of flail around too much. Like they're always a little too far out wide. And I just,
Yeah, he's more the when we were talking about guys that are large in this class that just use their size to their advantage. He kind of fits that. Like he definitely needs to work on his technique, and that's why when we talk about footwork and the bend of their back, like making sure they're keeping their chest up and staying low, that's why it's so important to us to see that. I mean, that's why it's such a key component.
agreed.
It's not easy to do, so when you can see guys do it consistently, it is so impressive. So, all right, it's
Let
your
me get
turn.
my turn. I'm going to give you a nice little Roger Rosengarten from Washington.
Yeah, I love this guy.
If we judged him just off his pass protection, I think you probably could consider him as like a early second. But unfortunately, him in the in rush game is an issue.
He's pretty young though.
Yeah, I think his size is just a little small, like weight wise. Like he's got the height and he's got
He's
at least
6'5", 308,
well the
33
three
and a half
the
inch
three oh
arms.
eight's the part. The problem is he has no strength.
But he is
That's the issue.
athletic.
If you're going to put him in a zone scheme where he can get out into space because he is fast as shit, super explosive, he can get out there in no time at all. Like he can get out onto space in a pool from the right tackle spot faster than some guards in the NFL.
Oh,
That's how
absolutely.
fast he is.
And
And
one thing to keep in mind, he's only a sophomore. He's very young. So he does have time to grow into this role even more. I I definitely think that's also an issue with his IQ.
right,
He's a young guy. He's still learning the position fully. But honestly, I'm starting to think that this guy's going to go in the second round just because of his age and his size and what we've seen. Like, I mean, he played in the national championship game and he played well.
yeah.
You know, I really like him.
The only thing that I'll be worried about is just he does not pack a lot of power.
He does not,
So
but that could
I
build
would
with
like
time.
him to build that up, and if that happens, I'd be stoked to see him play. But all right, how about you give your other guy?
All right, well, this is a guy that I kind of had to go back and forth with about, but it's Patrick Paul out of Houston. He has great size. I mean, he comes in at 6'7", 331 pounds, and 36 and a quarter inch arms. He played left tackle for 3 seasons, but he is quite a raw athlete. His footwork is okay. It definitely needs to get better. But this is one of those bigger guys that had issues bending and staying low.
Yeah,
He also had issues on reads. It was pretty obvious from time to time. And I thought his biggest weakness was going against edges with speed.
yeah,
The speed rush was definitely something he needs to work on.
yeah.
Um,
He is for me. He is like some of the hot. He had the best wingspan, I think.
yeah, I'm pretty sure he does.
Whereas, like with his arms combined with his like broad chest, like you can't get around him easily.
And
And
he is athletic.
my issue with him is I don't know. He can't really, even though he has long arms, I don't think he uses them very well.
Agreed.
Too many times he's missing his like hand placement, and he's bear hugging the rusher
Yeah.
way too many times.
And I
And
didn't think his strength was bad. I think it's
no,
hand placement. But yeah, I gave him a bad run blocking score. I only gave him like a 6.5 out of 10. I think these are things he can work on, but I definitely think he's going to sit a year.
yeah, I'd be very excited to have him though, regardless.
I still, when I first started watching his tape, I thought, third, fourth round guy, kind of around where Javon was. And then when I watched his Senior Bowl tape and really got to see him on one-on-ones, I'm like, you know something? This guy is a early third, maybe second round pick.
That's
I like
exactly
him a
where I
lot.
have him.
All right, who's your last guy?
Let's just pop it over with some Christian Jones from Texas.
All right, these two guys, him and Patrick Paul, have a lot of similarities as far as body type. And I really like both of them.
Other than the arms, like he got
What was
way.
his?
Patrick Paul's got way bigger.
They're still 34.
Oh yeah, no, it's good.
34-inch
Yeah,
arms, but
no,
he was what, 6'5", 305, 30, yeah, 34 and a half inch arms.
yeah, he was the one of those guys that like because his size profile was so good and he's such a good mover in space. Like you don't see a lot of losses on his tape, but you do see technical issues.
Yeah, his footwork was sloppy.
Like his pressure rate was pretty good with 2.2% this year, and that's due to him, having a lot of experience and stuff. Like he played for 4 years straight of having over 650 snaps. Like
But
but you can't if your technique is going to be like that after 4 years. I can't justify putting you in the top 10.
yeah,
But
as far as technique goes, I mean, he, like I said, his footwork was sloppy. I saw him leaning forward a lot on run blocks
yeah, me too.
to the point where he was a liability at points. And at times he blocks way too high as well on run blocks. And the biggest issue I had was how grabby he is in pass blocking. I mean, he had 8 penalties last season, and that's
Yeah, that was
one
the
of the
big one.
higher ones on my board. But like I said, him and Patrick Paul both have that lean, athletic body type. I definitely think both of them are very athletic players and have ideal size for the positions. I really like Christian Jones. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about him on my initial looks, but I think he's another player that may need to sit a year to really learn the game and, you know,
Yeah, I have him. I have his backup swing tackle for a couple years, and hopefully he works out his technique that he can be a spot starter for a couple of years as well. But
yeah, I think
that's how I have him graded as I think a round 3.
yeah, I'm thinking of round 3 guy.
So, but I think that about wraps things up for these tackles.
Oh yeah, we
We
got edges up next.
Oh yeah, we're so pumped.
We're
and
edging
drained.
it.
You're edging right now.
I'm edging it.
But hey, we appreciate you guys listening. It's not easy to hear two dudes talk about big boys for an hour and a half, but hey, you made it this far. You're freaks just like us. But again, thanks for listening. Let us know what you guys think. Bye.